was thinking a lot about water recently. Well, also sitting outside, looking at my pool, hearing the pumps, the water jets of it. It's very calming. I've always loved the beach. I grew up by the beach, very lucky. And just these light waves, the crash of the waves on the shore. It's probably why I like cruises so much, because when you're out in the ocean, it's vast and big, but it feels just so calming to me just to watch the waters. Now, sometimes though, the waters can get a little scary and a little choppy. And water in and of itself can take many, many forms. I mean, you boil it to make coffee and tea, right? So that's a good way, but you also don't want to be in physically boiling water. Waves are nice when they're not too big, but then what happens when you get a tsunami in life? Let's talk a little bit more about how do you navigate the waters.
Hi, I'm Carlin Holbrook. I'm a John Maxwell Team certified coach, teacher, trainer, speaker, published author, and influencer with more than 25 years of global leadership experience. If there's one thing I've seen firsthand time and time again, it's that the best leaders inspire others to follow their purpose and their passions, while the influence of a bad leader can literally tear down people's potential. Join me for a few sips of leadership tips that will help you become a better leader by first conquering the hardest person to lead, you.
We went on a cruise this summer, and I was thinking a lot about leadership concepts and leading myself better, frankly, through stress, self-doubt, we all experience it. I definitely struggle with anxiety, people pleasing, all the things that I talk about on here. I'm often trying to preach to myself as well. So we did have a couple of rocky sea days, some choppy water, and some crazy winds in some of it. So we were in Norway and Iceland, like knock you over kind of winds. But the second day we were in Iceland, I really honed in on what the captain was doing. So he would communicate with us, let us know that he assessed the winds and the situation and determined for our safety that we shouldn't sail yet. He monitored, waited a few hours later, and he gave us another update. And then eventually it was anchors away. And I keep replaying this example in my head because the beauty of it was he didn't quit. So yeah, those were some nutty winds. Those were some choppy waves, and that would not have felt good to try to sleep through that. But he employed the not yet strategy. So we're assessing, we're monitoring, we're preparing. We are going to keep moving forward, and moving forward at that point was not, pull up the anchors and start, shifting the cruise ship out. It was, we're going to keep assessing, we're going to keep monitoring, we're going to look at our tools. I'm sure he was looking at the instruments all over the bridge, right? But it was in that way he was continuing to move forward. It's okay to slow down. It's okay to maneuver around the weather and the storms, but just keep moving, keep activity going. So I really appreciated this because I feel like so often when we experience self-doubt or worry or stress or anxiety, we freeze, right? It's like the fight, flight, freeze, or I think there's like fawn now too. I don't know. We just keep adding F's to things. But the basic fight, flight, or freeze. And it used to just be fight or flight. Now it's fight or flight or freeze, because I do think that accurately describes what a lot of people do in panicking situations. I remember a story when I was a kid. We had a huge backyard, and there was an ice plant like in the very back of our yard. So it wasn't fun to walk around, and it covered the ground. And I was out there with my little brother. I was probably 8 or 9 years old. So that would mean he was 4 or 5 years old. And he stepped on a beehive, had no idea there was beehive under the ice plant. And the bees just started getting all over him and stinging him. And he was swatting him and everything. And I remember I froze. And in my head, I will never forget this moment, because in my head, I was told, if you freeze, when bees are around, they will leave you alone. They won't sting you. So instead of helping my brother, who was flailing his arms and screaming and crying, I just froze because I thought, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. And then he was screaming so loud. My mom ran out of the house, grabbed him, ran him into the house. I remember throwing him in the shower and trying to get, the stings all nursed. And I always felt bad about that. But, again, I was little. I forgive myself. I thought in my head, okay, freeze, it's a good thing. But the reality is, I mean, truly, if I had run, maybe the bees would have chased me. If I had run in the house to get my mom quicker, maybe he wouldn't have gotten stung so bad. He lived to tell about it, don't worry. But oftentimes, don't we freeze? Because we're paralyzed with fear. Because if we make a step or make a move or make a call that doesn't work out, oh my gosh, then what do, right? We get so down on ourselves. We get sick with worry. We beat ourselves. We shame ourselves. We blame ourselves. Or even oftentimes bad leaders will just blame the people around them, or blame another team or another person, or make excuses, and not own their stuff, right? So I think that's why people get scared and they freeze, or they get paralyzed with fear and they don't want to move forward. So the captain of the ship, he wasn't paralyzed with fear. He was assessing a situation and making a decision. Now, could have been the right one, could have been the wrong one. Who knows? But in that situation, he's gathering information and slowing down in order to make what he feels was the best decision in the moment. And I think I would say yes, most likely was, because again, seeing the waters just from the deck of the ship, I was like, yeah, that looks a little freaky. Now, they were still a little bumpy later, but not as bad. And you're putting your trust in the expertise of a leader. And in that case, it was the captain of the ship, and I'm sure his crew. And I'm sure they were talking about it, right? And they were all assessing, and they were all making decisions together, because they also had to make decisions to care for the thousands of people on board as well, right? Well, we do this every single day. We as leaders need to help our teams, our people, navigate rough waters. We need to help ourselves, and we need to help them. And sometimes we're going to have a lot of information. Sometimes we're not going to have a lot of information. Sometimes it's also trusting yourself, trusting both like your experience. Have I been in this situation before? Here's the information I have. It's trusting that you know that you need to slow down and gather information in order to make a good decision. I think for me, oftentimes, it's so easy to feel pressured to making quick decisions, quick calls. If you work in a fast-paced, moving, constantly shifting environment, then a lot of times people freeze because they're not confident. They do doubt. They're not sure. So they just avoid making a decision and go and hide or shift blame or dance around it or ignore the email or whatever. And it's like, okay, that's not leadership either. Leadership is deciding how much can I slow down, gather the information I need to make the best decision I possibly can, and then, by the way, stand by that decision. It may not be the right one. You're going to make bad calls. You're going to make bad decisions. It doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean that it was the wrong decision in the moment based on the information you had at the time. We have to stop shaming ourselves. It means you're human, for one, and you do the best you can. Now, as Ryan Leake would tell us, chasing failure is a good thing because it helps you learn, it helps you grow. It gives you the information you need in order to continue to iterate and innovate for the future and whatever that is. But it makes me sad that people in general are so fearful of making the wrong call. And some of that is because their leaders will fire them. Their leaders will come down on them. Their leaders will brand them because they made a bad decision, made a bad call. And again, I don't even like the term making a bad call or making a bad decision. It's like when you do the best you can with all the information you can in that moment to frankly justify, here's the decision I'm making and why, then stand up for it, stand by it. Even if it ends up not being the decision that, oh, okay, hindsight's always freaking 20/20, right? Well, we don't live in hindsight. We don't have crystal balls or magic 8 balls that tell us what the future holds. So we do the best we can, but own it and just help navigate the waters for your teams. Help them through each decision. And let's get into some sips so I can tell you how or share with you how and what's helped me. First sip. First you need to do is prepare. Prepare before a decision needs to be made. Have the tools at your disposal. Have the support for your decision making. Learn what you can. Know your people, know the situation, know what's happening around you. And I guarantee More and more with time, you'll get more and more comfortable making immediate and quicker decisions because you will have more experience and you will have more comfort in that. Even when, yes, you've made good ones and maybe not so good ones before, but preparation is so key. And that is a constant thing. That's not something you lead up to for an event and then it's done. It's every day. How do you best prepare yourself, prepare your mind, prepare your heart to mentally, prepare? What are the tools that you have at your fingertips? What are tools that you can bring into your arsenal of, okay, when I have to make a decision, what's a helpful technique for me? Do I take a deep breath, close my door, put my phone away, close my eyes, weigh out the possibilities? Do I journal? Do I write it down? Do I talk to my circle of trusted advisors? Do I read more? Do I ask more questions? That's my favorite one personally, is I ask a lot more questions of people to gather information. It's not a sign of weakness to ask other people, trusted peers, or even your team, what do you think is the best way forward from here? Do you think the captain of a ship unilaterally makes every decision? No, of course not. He relies on his navigators. He relies on his officers. He relies on other people to give him information, to help him gather information and details to ultimately, yes, the accountability lies with him, of course, but that's not leadership. Leadership isn't you make a unilateral, that's a dictatorship. You make a unilateral decision and suck it up, everybody. That's what we're doing. That's not leadership. It's gathering the information, knowing the tools at your disposal, and asking experts. All right, second sip. Slow is progress. Just keep swimming, like Dory says in Finding Nemo. Just keep moving forward. Slow is progress. So when we left the dock and he decided it was safe to go, but slowed way down because going a little bit slower was going to help increase our chances of not feeling the big swells as much or the wind as much. And it was much safer to move it slower, but we kept moving forward. And slow is progress. I think in this fast-paced, speedy world of instant information everywhere, people are afraid to just slow down. Because I think so much, I would say like 90% of decisions that need to be made, again, depending on the industry you're in, you have a beat to take a step and make that call. You don't always have to make a split-second decision. Not all the time, don't get me wrong, and again, depending on the industry you work in. But I think so often we put the pressure on ourselves to make snap decisions, and they're not always good ones. So you can take that step and a beat to go, do I have to make this decision now? Do I have time? Is this something that we can wait on? We can see what happens. I can ask more and get more information. Hey, that's still progress. Slow is still progress. All right, and then the third sip. Go with the swells rather than against them. It's okay to test the water, like even of a pool or the ocean, right? You dip your toe in. Is it cold? Is it too cold? Is it warm? What's it feel like? Ooh, those waves are a little crazy. Maybe test a smaller wave. Wade into the waters rather than just jumping in. That's usually a smarter thing to do. I know some people will say, oh, well, the easiest way to get used to the water, just jump in. And I actually say that to my husband all the time because he's a wader. He wades into the pool, and I do tend to be the one that just sucks up the cold and jumps in. But I also know the pool. I know my body. I know the circumstances around that, so I'm comfortable jumping in. That's me making a quick decision, but based on past experience, right? If I was going into maybe somebody else's pool or a different ocean or somewhere I hadn't been before, yeah, I'm going to wade in. In fact, I remember one time we were in Corsica and we were so excited to go into the water because it was hot, Mediterranean during the summer, and started to wade in to the water. Boy, am I glad I didn't just jump in, because wading in, suddenly there was a whole bunch of jellyfish all around us. And it was easy for me to quickly wade back out and avoid getting stung. So when you're not sure, when it's new and it's different, take it slow, but go with the swells rather than against them. Go with the water. Figure out, okay, I'm going to get used to this water. I'm going to dip the toe in. I'm going to figure this out first. Because if you keep beating your head against the wall of swells, then nothing is going to help you. So those are some tips to help. But I know that some of this doesn't help when a tsunami's coming at you, right? When a tidal wave pulls from the shore and suddenly is there, and it's so unexpected. Well, I take from the surfers of the world. Some of these surfers are surfing like 30-foot waves. I mean, they're insane, right? I love to watch them on TV, but I just keep thinking, oh my gosh, that thing could crush you. But if you notice what they do, they catch the wave. They don't go against the wave. They ride with the wave, even when it's so ginormous like that. But they also wait for the right one. They wait for the one that they feel confident that in the right timing that they can catch, paddle, and get on their board and ride into shore. They don't just jump on anyone that comes by. They assess, again, based on what their aptitude is, their skills, their past experience or knowledge of the waters and the way the surf and the wind and the waves work. But they catch the wave. They don't go against it. And I think that's so key for us, is when we start to feel that fear, get paralyzed with uncertainty. I'm not sure what to do, what to say, because the water is just coming up like a freaking tidal wave on me, or the situation is like a tsunami and it's coming at me big and huge. And I have this responsibility and that responsibility. It's like, hold on, take a beat. How can I catch this wave instead of running from it or going against it or trying to even go through it could kill you, because some of those are huge and big. But how can I ride the waves and go with the water? And again, slow is progress. So the next time you're in a situation where you feel like the water's coming at you, the waters are choppy, the big old tidal waves coming, maybe instead of a LeaderSHIP, you take a LeaderSHIP. What's in your boat? What's in that boat that's going to help you navigate those waters? Who's in your boat? What tools do you need? Do you want a rope? Do you need an anchor? Do you need a paddle? Do you need a motor? But all of that analogy to say that it's about riding the waves and navigating the waters and helping your people to do the same. Not being fearful of what the water can do. Because like every aspect of what water can do, freezes, boils, gets choppy, gets windy, gets wavy. Hey, we're made from, a lot of water inside of us too. You can control what you do with the water, even if you can't control the water itself. Get on your LeaderSHIP. You got this. Thank you for having a cup of coffee with me. For more sips and tips, connect with me on social and follow LeaderShips on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. And don't forget to visit my website, carlynnholbrook.com. Until next time, keep on brewing.